Before I start this video, I would like to give a trigger warning. This video will contain discussions of ableism, neurodivergent appropriation, if that's a term, apologies if it's not, and a short mention of abuse. If any of these topics are too much for you to handle, please click off of the video. If you are mentally in a safe place to watch this, please proceed with caution and keep yourself safe. First long-form video, let's go! Xenogenders and neopronouns. They've grown to be quite a contentious subject in both neurodivergent and neurotypical communities. I personally have diagnosed autism and ADHD, so before my comments flood with accusations, yes, I can speak on this. Xenogenders are often defined as genders that cannot fit within the understood gender spectrum. In most xenogender wiki pages, their description goes something like, insert xenogender refers to an individual whose gender identity directly correlates to insert an object, concept, time, person, sound, taste, smell, etc. Xenogenders can be about anything, from the most known ones of cat gender and pup gender, to neurogenders like autogender and ADHD gender, to the most niche ones such as KD gender or specific media characters. Why were xenogenders created? Many neurodivergent people, particularly those on the autism spectrum, struggle with the concept of gender. Some may be trans, some may be cis, some may be non-binary, agender, neutros. There's no limit as to what someone can identify as, especially in neurodivergent communities. There are many neurodivergent people who don't identify with such genders. Autistic people especially are known to be highly creative if on that end of the autism spectrum, so it makes sense that we connect something we don't inherently understand to a concept. For example, I'm genderqueer and non-binary. I use he/they pronouns, but I also use bats or ghosts. Despite that, I still don't identify as inherently male, female, or non-binary. The xenogender I identify most with is night thing. Due to combinations of neurodivergence, spiritual factors such as being Aetherian and otherkin, and my religion being pagan, the Wiccan branch, my gender feels a lot more like how Mothman is a Mothman rather than a moth who is male. Yes, he is a man, but he's Mothman first and foremost. I'm genderqueer and non-binary, but I'm Rory first and foremost. That descriptor helps me better explain how I perceive my gender. Other neurodivergent people view xenogenders and neopronouns as a mock to autism and neurodivergence, and believe it sets our work on acceptance back. I want to say that I understand such views, and if anyone wants to have constructive conversations in the comments, I'm more than happy to. However, if you're an asshole, I'm simply going to remove your comment, even if you agree with my ideas I'm about to present. I'm not going to allow a feeding ground for hatred. This is a discussion, not a rant, so please be decent. As much as I can see how some may think xenogenders and neopronouns are mocking the neurodivergent community, and sometimes even LGBTQ+ as a whole, there's typically way more factors that feed into xenogenders rather than just, haha, funny cat gender, go burr. Someone who is cat gender may have grown up surrounded by cats and used cats and interactions with them as a coping mechanism for being physically abused. That abuse may cause their brain to interpret themselves differently, and due to cats being a safe space for them their whole life, they may identify as cat gender and feel most comfortable in that label. While I admit that's an extreme example and the factors can be a lot more subtle, such as just viewing cats as a safe space with no inherent traumatic factors, people using xenogenders genuinely don't just use them for the funnies. It's often because they struggle perceiving themselves in ways neurotypical individuals can, so they latch onto something familiar and safe to describe how they feel about their gender identity. Admittedly, neurotypical xenogender users are a gray area I won't touch on because I'm not trying to discuss who can use xenogenders, but I can say that some neurotypical xenogender users, and even a few neurodivergent xenogender users, use them for perceived clout. However, that is a small portion of the population. Not all people who have plushies have them because they truly love everyone. Some just have them because they look pretty. People who use xenogenders in a non-genuine fashion are an issue because they taint the community, but the same can be said for furries or even the LGBTQIA itself. As for those who believe it mocks neurodivergence, I can understand that perspective on neurotypical xenogender users, but neurodivergent xenogender users are neurodivergent. A lesbian can't say identifying as a butch lesbian is mocking lesbianism because it's a subset of what it means to be a lesbian. If you don't like it, block and move on. Someone going by he, they, and bat ghosts isn't harming you, especially since he prefers more conventional pronouns. Admittedly, there are some neopronouns users who won't accept any other pronouns than, for example, cats. But again, block and move on. They are not hurting you. Everyone needs to accept that there are branches of neurodivergence you may not like. I'm not the biggest fan of hyper-realistic art styles, but I'm not going to harass a hyper-realism artist and tell them to stop drawing realism just because I don't understand the appeal of it. The same goes for any community, not just neurodivergence and the LGBTQIA. Most furries dislike the ooh-woo furries, if you know, you know. but it's still not acceptable to harass them, even within those communities. Xenogenders aren't inherently harmful, and neither are neopronouns.